Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Angela, where I talk about books. Every month I do a wrap up of the books that I have been reading, and I do like a bit of a mini review of each of those books. And that is this video. This is a wrap up of all the books that I read in June. And there were a few. And it's interesting because of my last tag video that I did about the mid-year freakout book tag, I said that I was having a real lackluster year. And this month kind of changed things up a little bit, so I'm excited to share the books that I've read with you. I am in Australia, so we are in the middle of our winter. While all you guys are sharing your summer reading lists, I have been getting into my winter dark academia vibes. It has been really nice to be able to just curl up on the weekend when it's raining or gloomy and just read a book. So that's what I've been spending a lot of my time doing. So first of all, I want to share with you the books that I am currently reading, so the books that I'm still reading from June. The first book I wanted to mention that I have only just started is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. And this is the book that I chose for my very first read-along, which we are doing in July. So if you want to join us, please feel free to. I think we've got maybe over 25 people doing the read-along from all corners of the world. Burial Rites was Hannah Kent's first book, and I'm excited to read this one because Hannah Kent just brought out another book, which is a memoir of her time in Iceland as she was researching this book. So I really hope to finish this one, which by all accounts sounds like a fantastic read. This was a little daunting when I first started it because it has like a couple of notes, on the maps that are provided, a note on the pronunciation of Icelandic names. So it's a little bit daunting at first. I'm just a little bit of the way through the first chapter at the moment, and I can hear the accents in my mind. I can feel the environment. If you want to join us on the read along, it's not too late. You can jump in at any time. It runs for the month of July, and I'll leave a link down below to the story graph. I'm also reading Toast by Nigel Slater. This was a book that was first published in 2003, and Slightly Foxed have just reissued it in their beautiful Slightly Foxed editions. And it's a memoir of Nigel Slater's childhood remembered through food. I'm really enjoying my time with this book. It's tiny little snippets, vignettes of his memories. There's a lot of humor, a lot of vulnerability. It's really seen through a child's point of view, and I think it's a book that you don't want to take too seriously. Nigel Slater's writing is lovely. His voice, it's one of those voices you can hear as you're reading something. So I'm enjoying reading that one at the moment. And another one that I have on the go is Always Will Be by Michaela Saunders. This is really quite unique. It's a series of short stories that are speculative fiction, and it's told through the lens of what would the future look like for the Gori, that's a name given to the Aboriginal or Indigenous people of, I think, New South Wales, northern New South Wales. What would their future look like if they had reasserted their sovereignty of their land? And I'm thoroughly enjoying this one. The writing is beautiful. Every single story is unique. About halfway through, I had to extend my library loan because I really want to finish this one. It was actually, I think it was longlisted for the Stella Prize in 2025. I'm really enjoying it. It's a great one. So let's get into the books that I actually read and finished in June. I think there's 6 books. The first one I want to share with you is actually one from May, which I couldn't wrap up because I was doing it as a buddy read with a friend of mine. So we have since debriefed, and I can now share with you my thoughts on Chai Time at Cinnamon Gardens by Shankari Chandran. This book was first published in 2022, and it actually won the Miles Franklin Literary Award in 2023. And it kind of came to my attention at that point. I've had it on my bookshelf for a while, and my friend did as well. So we decided to let's just do this one together and get it out of the way. And I had tried to read this in the past, and I didn't get past the first 2 chapters. It is a book that has a lot of characters. It has names that I'm not familiar with because there's a lot of Tamil, Sri Lankan names in here. And I found it a little overwhelming at first to really just get my head around it all. But this time, because I was doing a buddy read, I had the tenacity, I guess. I had the motivation to keep going with it, and I fell in love with it after that 3rd chapter, that one that I missed last time. So the Cinnamon Gardens is a nursing home that is in a quiet suburb in Sydney, and it was created, or it started in the 80s by a woman named Maya and her husband, who had immigrated to Australia to escape the violence that was taking place in Sri Lanka. Immediately we're introduced to the residents of the nursing home as well as the workers around the nursing nursing home and their extended family. And they are a very, very colourful bunch with interesting histories and stories of their own. And the Cinnamon Gardens is kind of like a safe haven for these people in a nation and a neighbourhood that is not without its prejudices. Now, the cover and the title make it sound like a cosy read, but it is a real punch in the gut about community, about race, about family, legacy, and also about storytelling and how stories shape who we are. I really don't want to give too much of the plot away because I feel like that is part of the magic of this. I was reading it and got to a certain point where things flipped, things happened, and I couldn't stop reading. I wanted to find out what was going to happen next. So I don't want to share too much of the plot. This book was a real revelation for me about the atrocities and the violence that immigrants and refugees are escaping when they're coming to countries like Australia. And they're not just looking for a better life, but they're looking for a life. There's just no, at the time, these characters, what they were going through with the civil war in Sri Lanka, there was just no life available for them. And they've come to Australia, but then they start to experience racism and all sorts of other prejudices. And the timing of discussing this kind of topic is not lost on me with everything that is happening in the US at the moment. And I would really recommend that for those of us who have not had to call ourselves refugees or immigrants, that you read this book and read this really interesting perspective that is really, really powerful and affecting. And I thoroughly love this book. The Miles Franklin Award is given to a book that is of its highest merit in writing, but also represents Australia through all of her phases. And I think this is a really interesting one that I haven't read before, about what it would be, what it would feel to be like a refugee coming to Australia and just making your home and going about your business, but being unable to escape those prejudices and that hatred that a lot of people have. The writing is magnificent. It is really, really beautiful. But the provocative topics, I think, really raise a mirror to the reader. I felt like I was having to investigate my own heart as I read this, and you kind of have to think about those unconscious biases that you might have. And I think it would be really useful for people to read, to reflect and look inwards and see how we can make a more inclusive and happy society. I have to give this 5 stars, I really do. It was a phenomenal book. I pity my friend. My friend was away for a couple of weeks in May when we were reading this, and we were reading it in tandem. We were kind of going at the same pace, and then this moment happens in the book where everything, it just all hits the fan, so to speak. And my friend was away at the time and I could not put the book down. So I just kept on going. But it's a beautiful book about stories and storytelling and our legacies. And I highly, highly recommend it. Speaking of privilege, the next book I read, which I listened to on audio exclusively, was Oscar Wars, A History of Hollywood in Gold, Sweat and Tears, I think. It starts off as this real lively history of the Academy Awards, how they started, who was involved, and then it turns into this really colourful history of Hollywood and a lot of behind the scenes tension behind those awards. I really do have an interest in pop culture, especially when it comes to movies and film, not just the product of what they're producing, but the work behind the product. How they get to that point is quite fascinating to me, as well as the golden era of Hollywood. I really find that era interesting. So this was a great little book. It talks about, it's not exactly linear. The author has definitely picked certain moments out, such as Halle Berry being the first Black woman to win an Oscar for a lead actress in a role, and also the insane competition of the campaigning behind the scenes, especially when it came to Saving Private Ryan, who a lot of people believe were robbed of the Best Picture Oscar by Shakespeare in Love, which had Harvey Weinstein behind them. And then there's also conversations about Harvey Weinstein himself. It was really quite interesting to read how in the 70s, the Oscars realized they needed to inject some fresh blood into the Oscars. People like Dustin Hoffman just weren't interested in joining this fuddy-duddy academy. So they had to find ways to bring young people into the academy to give it a new life. But then they also kind of did the same thing following the Oscars So White controversy, where they had to diversify the members. They had to bring in more women, more people of colour. And I found that really interesting, how there were these two moments, very, very different in history, but so similar the way the Academy kind of approached it. It is a very big book, which is why I chose to listen to it on audio. So I just listened to it over a couple of months as I drove places. But overall, I really enjoyed my time with this book. I got a lot of information that I really didn't know previously. And I think it's a great read. If you're interested in pop culture, in Hollywood, in the Oscars, I would recommend it. In June, I also read The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've never read any of his books previously. I wanted to read The Hobbit because it has such gravitas behind it, and I am so glad I did. For me, it probably came in around about a 4-star read, and it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I really did enjoy it. I have seen the movie, and seeing how the movie differed so much from the book was quite interesting. I think the magic of this book will come from when I'm able to read it out loud to my grandkids. I think it's a book that is meant to be read out loud to other people, and it's a shared experience. So I feel like when that happens, it'll be like a 5-star read for everyone that's in the room. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love spending time with our favourite burglar, Bilbo. I thought he was a great character. I enjoyed him. And I don't have a lot more to add to the conversation about The Hobbit. This was a great edition if you're looking to purchase one. I like this one. It has some beautiful illustrations through it. It has maps of Middle-earth on the end papers, which was really handy because a lot of the book does refer to the length of time between places and going here and there. So that was really good. And I think I will probably pick up the Lord of the Rings in the future. I don't feel quite as daunted anymore. The next book I read was I Died at Fallow Hall by Bonnie Burke-Patel. I started this book expecting a cozy murder mystery set in a small village in the Cotswolds. And it started off really well, but unfortunately it really kind of fell short for me. There was a few reasons for this. First of all, the plot of the story. Anna lives in Fallow Cottage, which is on the grounds of the Fallow Hall estate. She tends to her garden, she grows fruit, produce from her garden, and she sells it at the market. And I was like, yes, this is the book I want to read. She digs up human remains in one of her garden beds, and that starts this mystery of who is this person that has been buried at Fallow Hall. And while I enjoyed the first third of the book, I really struggled with the fact that there are no chapters in this book. And there are 3 perspectives, and the 2 current perspectives don't have any differentiation between the 2 of them, while the timeline that is a while ago, which we believe to be the person who has some sort of connection to this murder, that received some dates to differentiate it, but I found it quite confusing at times. There was just no break. There was no break between these things happening. So that was probably one of my first problems with it. I also felt that some of the writing wasn't in line with the story. It got a little bit, not dark, but a little bit too, maybe it was a bit graphic. It didn't feel in tune with what the book was. And I don't want to wallow on this too long because I just felt like I got bored with the book. I had to struggle to finish it, and it's a super small book, but the writing was oddly paced and I just got bored with it. I don't know if I could recommend this, unfortunately, to anybody, even someone who loves cozy murder mysteries, because even the last 10% and the ending of the book, I was kind of rolling my eyes at it. It really wasn't great. So unfortunately, I can't recommend it. I'm really bummed to say that. I hope that maybe in the future I might pick up something else from Bonnie, but I think this is her first book. It's her first book that she's written, so we'll see. I love the premise. Next, I read The Safe Keep by Yael van der Wouden. This book really doesn't need any introduction on YouTube. It has been going around for a while, and it most recently won the Women's Prize for 2025. So I picked it up one weekend in June, and I really enjoyed my time with it. And surprisingly, because it had been around for so long, I didn't know a lot about the plot of the book, about what was going to happen in the book. I really had been living under a rock in that sense. So it's set in 1961 in a post-war Dutch rural town where Isabel lives in her late mother's home. Isabel is a unique character. I found it quite difficult to connect with her personally, but the story is what kept me going through. So Isabel lives this life of routine and discipline, and then one day her brother leaves his current girlfriend on Isabel's doorstep and says, she needs to stay here for a month. And so Isabel's life is kind of upended by Ava, who lives with her. And the writing is excellent, lush. It's another debut as well, which is fascinating. But I think van der Wouden is I think she is in the literary space as a professor. But the writing is so lovely, and the plot was really unique and creative as it took a twist at a few different points. It did feel a little bit unbalanced in the pacing for me, and the second perspective at the end, I felt like it was the ending was a bit rushed for me. Although I did love the actual ultimate ending of the book. I felt like that was really quite satisfying. However, I'm hard pressed. Like, this is a book I would recommend to my mum normally, but if you've read this book, you know why I would not be able to recommend it to my mum. It has quite a bit explicit sex scenes in here, and I feel like they detracted from the book for me. Like, I feel like I understand why they're there because of who Isabel was, but at the same time, I don't know who I could recommend this to because of that content, which is a shame. I felt like maybe it was a little bit too explicit. That said, I did enjoy the ending, and I would give this book a 4-star rating. So I'm glad to have read it. And then directly after I read The Safekeep, I picked up The Secret History, and holy dooly, this book blew my mind. I cannot believe this was written in 1990 or published in 1992, and I cannot believe it's taken me this long to get to it. This is a good example of my stubbornness in not wanting to follow the crowd. After I shared my tag video about the mid-year freakout book tag, I mentioned that I was looking at reading one of Donna Tartt's books as my 5 Classics in 2025 project, and I was tossing up between The Goldfinch and The Secret History. And so many of you jumped on and you had different views about both, but The Secret History kind of won out for me because of this moment of this dark academia kind of feeling I was going for in my reading. You know, sitting by a fireplace, listening to the rain fall down. That was the vibe I was going for, and The Secret History I thought would fit in well with that. And from the second page, I was 100% in. 100%. The characters were full-bodied, the location and the environment was so evocative, and the plot was incredibly well-paced for me. I heard it described as a thinking person's thriller, which I feel I want to lean onto that a little bit for my own vanity, but I absolutely devoured it. I think it took me about a week to finish this book, and I absolutely loved it. It was interesting that at times I was laughing out loud, which felt wrong because this is a murder mystery of sorts, but I was laughing out loud. Like, I think it was Bunny who couldn't admit that when he was drunk, it was always, oh, I ate something funny. Or when they went to the funeral, this real dry humor that I love. But I was constantly gripped about what was going to happen next. And I mean, I didn't go to university or college, or I kind of did, but I did it externally. So I did it from home, and I didn't study the Greek classics, but I felt like I was one of them in Julian's classroom as they just had these discussions, these highly intelligent discussions. And I may be the last person to read this, but in case you have not read it yet, The Secret History is a psychological thriller about a group of elite college students in Vermont who, under the influence of their rather eccentric professor, commit a murder that slowly unravels all of their lives. It's written from the perspective of Richard, who has come from California to Vermont to go to this college or university, and he is an outsider to this group, just as we're an outsider reading it. And so it was really great to have him be our perspective. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will pick up Donna Tartt again. I think I'll probably do The Goldfinch next, and then A Little Friend later, or The Little Friend. Loved it. I'd probably give it 5 stars. Like, I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't give it 5 stars. Excellent. And I thought that would be the end of my June reading. I really didn't think that I would finish another book in time for this video. But then I picked up Young, Damned and Fair by Gareth Russell, and this was a total mood read for me. And it is a non-fiction book about the life of Catherine Howard, who was the 5th wife of Henry VIII. I had wanted to read this book for quite a while, but I have read another book of Gareth Russell's, and it's this big hardback book. And I wanted to get the matching hardback of this because it's a beautiful cover, as you can see. I couldn't get hold of it, so eventually I bought just the paperback, and I devoured it in a couple of days. It's a really fascinating look at Catherine Howard's career, as Russell puts it, who I admit It's probably the wife that I know the least about, maybe up there with Catherine Parr. Catherine was probably 18 or 19 when she married Henry and became Queen of England, and around 20 or 21 when she was executed for having committed adultery. There is one sentence why I think this is a fantastic book if you are a Tudor enthusiast at all. Catherine's career offers a window into the mesmerising brutality of Henrician England as it lurched through the final decade of Henry's reign and the first of the English Reformation. It also has some interesting moments with Anne of Cleves, who was Henry VIII's fourth wife, who he had his marriage annulled to her. She escaped unscathed. And it has quite a few moments with her, which I enjoyed again because I haven't read anything specifically about Anne of Cleves. I enjoy Gareth's writing because not only does he give you the story that is written on the front cover, but he gives you so many side dishes as well. So it would also tell me about what the times were like in the Tudor court. There was information about Catherine's clothes and how many jewels were attached to different things, what the routines were like for the royal family. It even had the wedding vows in here, which were interesting. So if you are at all interested in the Tudor times, it's fascinating to read for that information. Gareth Russell is a very neutral historian and biographer, and you don't feel that you're being fed a perspective. I don't feel that. Because there is so much history and rumour around Catherine herself, there is a lot of facts out there, or information we see as facts. And Gareth Russell did a great job of saying, this is what a lot of people believe, or this is what maybe one historian believes, but here are the facts of this is what I can show you that prove this is not correct, and this was the actual thing that happened. I did enjoy that. It felt very unbiased. It actually has 3 appendices in the book as well. There is one that is about the alleged portraiture of Catherine Howard, another one that is listing the household of Catherine Howard when she was Queen of England, and another one that is literally a timeline of her downfall. So I really, really enjoyed it. I recommend it to any Tudor enthusiast. And Gareth Russell has another book I'd love to get my hands on, which is called Queen James, The Life and Loves of Britain's First King. James Stuart was James V of Scotland, and when Elizabeth I died, he became King of England. So he became the first king of Britain, James I and James V simultaneously. And I know nothing about him really, but I think it would be an interesting read. If it's anything like this one, I'm going to have a whale of a time. So that is what I read in June. It was after sharing with you that I was having a real bummer of a year, like really was not having any great high points in my reading, June turned out to be fantastic. I would be hard pressed in telling you which book was my favourite. I think I would probably have to toss it up between Young, Damned and Fair and The Secret History. I think maybe The Secret History would win out just because it had me in a chokehold. So I'll have to think about it a bit more, and I'll share it in my Substack this week on Friday, which one I think to be my book of the month. I hope you enjoyed this video, this erratic little video of my reading for the month, which was quite eclectic, quite interesting. I managed to get some award-winning books in there. This month I think was a real mood reading led kind of month, so I think that might be the lesson for me to take away, that I just need to go with my gut and I will have a great time. I would love for you to share below what your favourite book of June was as well, because you know you can never have enough book recommendations. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you soon. Bye.